Many have attempted to rob casinos, and some of these incidents have become iconic events. Vigo fills the bag with money and leaves. Thanks to the recordings from the hotel surveillance cameras, he is quickly identified, arrested, and sentenced to life in prison, with the stolen amount totaling $160,000. 1992. The cashier at the Stardust Casino in Las Vegas, Bill Byrne, finishes his shift, but this time he leaves with the entire day's earnings, part in cash, part in chips. The robber was never found, and the total amount stolen was $500,000. 2007. The surveillance engineer at the Sobo Casino in Las Vegas, Rolando Ramos, begins his shift. 1993. Cajar Tolchiva and her partner, Roberto Solis, start working at the Circus Casino in Las Vegas, tasked with transporting cash. During one of their runs, they hijack a money truck along with several security guards. 12 years later, Heather surrenders to the authorities, while her accomplice remains at large. An impressive list. Among the largest casino heists in history, these cases pale in comparison to the actions of the secret group of mathematics students. They managed to steal at least millions, and according to some reports, tens of millions of dollars. Moreover, not a single member of the group ended up behind bars or was even under investigation, as they did not rob casinos, but rather used their skills to manipulate the game process in their favor. This method allowed them to repeatedly win against casinos. However, the owners of gambling establishments are not accustomed to losing money. The activities of casinos are initially tied to the mafia, and such individuals are willing to go to great lengths to protect their investments. This is the story of modern-day Robin Hoods, outsiders who, by harnessing the power of human intellect, managed to outsmart a powerful system. How did they manage to achieve success? And why did the secret student organization ultimately dissolve? Once, Newton formulated the law of universal gravitation, and 3 centuries later, another well-known law emerged. The house always wins. The issue is not that establishments intentionally deceive or break the rules. It is important to note that these are exclusively legal institutions. This is not about underground games or online casinos, but rather about legal gambling establishments where every adult has the opportunity to try their luck. The interior of the casino resembles a maze filled with captivating attractions at every turn. Casinos lack clocks and windows, which leads to a loss of the sense of time. You spend more time in the establishment, and thus you spend more money. The simplified principle is, attention is equivalent to money. I can drop in for a short while, place a bet on the roulette, or play a few hands of blackjack. And who knows, maybe luck will be on my side instead of the casino's. And yes, it is quite possible. The rules of gambling may vary slightly depending on the region and establishment, but the same principle remains at the core. The odds of the casino are always higher than those of the player. This advantage is over 30% in slot machines, while in table games like craps or blackjack, it ranges from 2% to 15% depending on the player's skill level. Naturally, there were those who tried to cheat the system using magnets, marked cards, hidden cameras, and other fraudulent methods. However, such tricks are futile and only confirm the main law. In the end, the casino will always come out ahead. Or perhaps not. If the casino uses mathematics to its advantage, why shouldn't visitors take advantage of the same methods, especially if mathematics is their language of communication with the world around them? Thus, the story of the secret team from the Technological Institute began. 1994, Boston. Jeff, who has just crossed the threshold of his 20s, is graduating from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. He shares an apartment with two information technology students, one of whom is Mike Aponte. By 1994, both of his roommates have already dropped out of school. Thanks to their mysterious activities on weekends, the roommates never worried about rent and led quite a carefree lifestyle. One day, Jeff decides to find out his roommate's secret, and they suggest he take a trip to Atlantic City. This city is not as well known outside the United States, but like Vegas in the West, Atlantic City in the East attracts people with the desire to try their luck. Jeff and his two friends arrive in Atlantic City, where they are greeted by a limousine with a concierge in a tuxedo. He takes them to one of the city's main hotels and checks them into a luxurious multi-room suite with a jacuzzi and a complimentary bottle of champagne. All of this impresses Jeff, who is struggling with constant financial issues to the point that he doesn't notice the odd detail. The concierge keeps mixing up the names of his companions throughout the journey. One of his friends explains to the puzzled Jeff how the bonus system works in large casinos. If bets in blackjack or craps are $20, you can expect only smiles from the casino staff and perhaps a small discount on your hotel room. If your bets reach around $100, there's a chance to get a free room. With bets in the several $100 range, complimentary food and drinks will be offered with the room. Such is the fate that awaits high rollers. What benefit does the casino gain, you may ask? Here we return to the fundamental principle. The larger the players bet, the more they ultimately lose. Therefore, the establishment actively encourages those who make large bets regularly. Upon learning this, Jeff wonders where his roommates, who dropped out of university, got such money. He finds the answer that same evening at the casino when one of his friends takes him to the gaming hall. They walk past the slot machines, roulette, and poker tables and head towards a table where blackjack is being played. Jeff watches as his roommate starts the game with bets of $100 and soon moves on to thousands. After a couple of hours, his roommate gets up from the table with a winnings of $6,000, nearly a year's salary. Away from Jeff, at another table, sits his roommate, Mike Aponte, who soon also begins to accumulate a significant amount of winning chips. In response, one of Jeff's friends, Ma, says that they are not breaking any rules either in the game or in the casino. They are simply using a mathematical system that gives them the opportunity to achieve the nearly impossible, to beat the house. Jeff's roommates are not the only ones who possess this system. They invite him to join a team of students from the Institute of Technology who have learned to beat the casino relying solely on their mental skills. Let's play a little game. This game, strangely enough, is not related to cards, but it illustrates the main principle of the story. It is based on a classic American television show where the host, Monty Hall, presents the contestant with 3 doors. Behind 2 of them is a goat, and behind the 3rd is a car. The contestant must choose one of the doors. After the contestant makes their choice, Monty Hall opens one of the doors that they did not choose, revealing a goat behind it. Thus, behind one of the remaining doors is the car, and behind the other is a goat. Monty offers the contestant the opportunity to change their initial choice. In this case, some contestants preferred to stick with their choice, while others decided to change it. As a result, some won and some did not. But the main idea was that when given the option to switch doors, it was always more advantageous for the contestant to change their choice. Because this way, his chances of winning the car significantly increased. Wait, this seems illogical. Many are convinced that when there are 2 doors left, one with a goat and the other with a car, the probability of winning becomes 50-50. Right, 50-50? Let's start over. You have 3 doors. Behind 2 of them is a goat, and behind the 3rd is a car. Then the host opens one of the doors that you did not choose, and behind it is a goat. If you stick with your initial choice, your chances of winning will be 33.3%. However, if you decide to switch your choice, the probability of getting the car increases to 66.6%. Yes, it's not 100%. This does not mean that by switching doors you will always win, but over a long game, your wins will significantly outweigh your losses. Nothing personal, just mathematics. This is the fundamental principle of the strategy that allowed students from the Technological Institute to beat the casino in dollar. The system itself, of course, is much more complex and involves not only mathematical aspects. We will discuss this in more detail later. A couple of months after the trip to Atlantic City, Jeff Ma meets with the members of the closed BDK Club at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Although calling this club secret is not entirely accurate. Jeff, like the other students, was aware of the existence of such an organization, but considered it a simple interest group, similar to a chess club or a book club. In reality, it was a serious structure. The club members, which included both current and former MIT students, gathered in one of the lecture halls after classes. In the MIT Blackjack team, Jack had several mentors. One of them, Bill Kaplan, Jeff Ma met on his first evening in the club. In the 70s, Kaplan decided not to attend Harvard, which alarmed his mother. But even more surprising to her was his unusual alternative. He intended to get rich by playing in casinos. This ambition of Kaplan's arose after reading a book by MIT professor Edward Thorp, in which he shared a unique strategy for playing blackjack based on computer calculations. Bill Kaplan researched the system, invested $1,000, and within 9 months had won $35,000. After that, he completed his studies at Harvard Business School while continuing to play actively in casinos. One day, a group of students overheard Kaplan discussing the card-counting methodology. They too had been trying to beat the casino at blackjack using mathematical approaches, but their successes were limited. As a result, Bill took on the role of mentor for the group, which later became known as the MIT Blackjack Team. Bill's transition to a coaching role was a natural step, not influenced by age or fatigue from frequent trips to Vegas. At the very least, casino management can revoke a player's ability to participate in blackjack games. That is exactly what happened to Bill Kaplan, both in the United States and in Europe. He was either completely banned from casinos or had his access to the game restricted. By the early 90s, the casino industry was experiencing a boom. Bill Kaplan and his team had already achieved significant success, but decided to take it to the next level by founding Strategic Investments, raising a startup capital of $1 million. This funding came from Kaplan himself, other executives, and familiar investors. The MIT Blackjack student team continued to grow, and during this time, Mike Aponte joined, who would later become Jeff Ma's neighbor. Now, it is time to answer the question that has likely arisen for many of you. Why was blackjack chosen? There are numerous games available in casinos. To clarify this point, let's quickly review the rules of blackjack, also known as 21. First, players place their bets using chips. The minimum and maximum amounts depend on the specific table and the house rules. Then, the dealer deals 2 cards to each player and to themselves, revealing only one of their own cards. Jacks, queens, and kings are valued at 10 points, while an ace can be worth either 11 or 1, depending on the player's choice. The player may request an additional card or choose to stand. The dealer reveals their second card last and decides whether to take another card or stand. If the dealer busts or has a total lower than that of any player, the player receives a payout of 100% or 150% of their bet. One round of play is called a hand, and during the game at the table, a participant goes through many such hands. There are other nuances in the rules, but at this stage, that is sufficient. The main point is that the dealer draws cards from what is known as the shoe. Each new card drawn from the shoe affects the subsequent moves in the game, similar to the example with the goats and the car. The essence is that cards valued at 9 and above provide an advantage to the players, while cards from 6 and below favor the dealer. Thus, the more high cards remain in the deck as the game progresses, the greater the player's chances of winning. In each subsequent hand, it is advantageous for the player to make larger bets if there are many high cards remaining in the deck. Conversely, if most of the cards are low, it is wise to bet less. In dice games, the result of each roll is random and does not affect the next, just like in slot machines or roulette. However, blackjack is a game with elements of memory. By knowing which cards have already been dealt, one can predict the outcome of the game with some accuracy, allowing players to regularly beat the casino at blackjack. The simple card-counting strategy that Jeff learns during his first visit to the club does not seem difficult for a student from one of the world's top technical universities. He simply adds 1 in his mind when the dealer draws a card with a value of 6 or lower, and subtracts 1 when a card with a value of 10 or higher appears. Cards valued at 7, 8, and 9 do not affect the count and are considered neutral. As the number in the player's mind increases, the chances of winning rise, as more good cards remain in the shoe. However, casinos do not remain passive in the face of these changes. Since the release of the first books on statistical analysis of blackjack in the 1960s, casino staff have come to understand card-counting methods and improve their countermeasures. Such a player was likely banned from participating in blackjack at a specific casino, or even from entering the establishment. Although this may seem like a minor issue, given the hundreds of casinos in Vegas, over time, establishments began hiring specialized companies to combat cheaters and card counters, which created blacklists of guests. Players on these lists were referred to as dinosaurs. In most places, they were prohibited from playing blackjack or entering at all. One such dinosaur was Bill Kaplan. However, a ban on playing for a specific individual in most casinos does not pose a serious problem. If Jeff Ma has a team, he participates in the distribution of roles among the members. During training, students are grouped into teams of 5 to 7 people, each of which goes to a corresponding casino on weekends when the demand for players is at its peak. Team members are divided into 3 categories: observer, gorilla, and big player. The role of the observer is quite clear from the name. This person watches the game, counts cards, and alerts the other team members when there are cards left in the deck that create an advantage. To facilitate this, the MIT team developed a system of gestures and code words. For instance, arms crossed over the chest indicated that the deck was warm, while hands behind the back signaled a hot deck with high odds. When the observer signaled a hot deck, the gorillas would enter the game. They portrayed a not-so-smart but wealthy player who generously splashes money around and makes large bets, making it difficult to suspect them of card counting. In reality, the gorillas acted solely on the observer's instructions. Signals could also be verbal. For example, the use of the word pool indicated that the deck was warm, while the word salary meant that the count had reached +115, signaling a hot deck and the opportunity to make large bets. However, they then continued the game on their own, counting cards, analyzing moves, and adjusting bets. At some point, when the bets start to increase sharply, it becomes quite easy to suspect an entire team where no one stands out as an obvious card counter. This becomes nearly impossible. Before the first team game, Ma feels nervous. He has studied the signs and code words as well as played numerous test hands. However, now he will face real conditions for the first time. Will he be able to handle the pressure? Jeff's first test begins even before he steps through the casino door. MIT students lived in Boston, while all the major legal casinos are located in other states, such as Las Vegas, on the other side of the country. Playing requires significant amounts of cash, and we are not talking about $1,000, but tens and hundreds of thousands. Typically, new team members are responsible for transporting the money, hiding bundles of cash under their clothing, and thus bringing it into the casino. He certainly will not participate in the game. His task is to organize. All participants are accommodated in the luxurious MGM Grand Hotel, renting various rooms, and throughout the weekend, they will not communicate with each other on the hotel or casino premises except through gestures and code words. Jeff Ma, like any newcomer, spends his first evening in the role of an observer. He can make small bets at the table, but his results do not matter. The main focus is to carefully count the cards and signal the main player at the right moment. Unlike the practice games, everything is real now. In addition to the other players and casino staff, there is another limitation. Behind the dealer often stands their supervisor, who closely monitors what is happening at the table. Jeff understands that theoretically, he has nothing to fear. The worst outcome would be a ban from entering a specific casino. However, various rumors have circulated. It is worth recalling how the gambling industry emerged in the United States. Its active development began after World War II, when new casinos started being built en masse in Las Vegas, often financed by the mafia and secret owners. This is more than enough to make a novice player feel anxious. Nevertheless, despite the nerves, Jeff Ma does not falter and successfully navigates his first evening. He confidently counts the cards and signals his accomplice when the deck becomes favorable, resulting in them leaving the table with a win of several $1,000s. The group's net profit for the evening, after deducting expenses and dividends for investors, amounts to several tens of thousands of dollars, a portion of which Jeff receives. Jeff Ma's debut can confidently be considered a success. After spending the weekend in a luxurious hotel, he attended a boxing match alongside sports and entertainment stars, thanks to free tickets from colleagues who were making large bets, all while earning a good amount of money. Boston and university life stand in stark contrast to the bright lights of Las Vegas. Instead of bustling casinos, there are serious lecture halls. Instead of gourmet dishes from a chef, there is the usual food in the student cafeteria. And instead of luxurious rooms with jacuzzis, there is a rented apartment shared by 3. None of Jeff Ma's family and friends suspect his double life, which is gaining popularity day by day. Almost every week, the team makes trips to casinos, most often to Vegas. These trips are mostly similar to one another, but no one on the team takes them seriously. Playing on the negative side, the players check into a luxurious hotel under fictitious names each time. They are greeted with magnificent suites featuring multiple bedrooms, jacuzzis, complimentary champagne, and catering services. As evening approaches, the team heads to the gaming hall and takes their positions. Participants place bets according to their roles, and the game begins. Hands follow one after another, and the numbers in the players' heads constantly change. Hands are clasped behind their backs and the bets increase. Chips start at hundreds of dollars and then rise to thousands. The system delivers results. After 4 to 5 hours of play, the players exchange their winnings for chips and go out to relax, usually opting for nearby offices or strip clubs to discuss the outcomes. They should not be seen together in the casino or hotel. After the break, another 4 to 5 hours of play begins. New hands, numbers, bets, gestures, and code words. By morning, the team leaves the gaming tables often with significant winnings. One such event Jeff Ma will remember forever. The clock reads 4 a.m., and the night has been long and tense. Despite his fatigue, he carefully watches the deck and keeps count. Realizing that the deck is hot, he decides to take a risk. Betting over $10,000, he closely observes the dealer's actions. When he draws a combination of 21, he collects a win of $25,000 from the table, and this is just from the last few hours. This moment becomes a significant step for him in the hierarchy of the secret BDC club, earning him the status of a high roller. It is worth noting that the team's success depended not only on mathematics, psychology also played a crucial role in the game. At the Technological Institute, many possessed card-counting skills, but that was not enough. At the gaming tables, the players from the MIT team needed to become different people. They not only changed their names, but also completely transformed their identities. Their main task was to appear as ordinary casino patrons who had come to spend money and have fun. This could be an IT millionaire, a spoiled child from a wealthy family, or a successful broker from Wall Street. The players in question likely knew little about counting strategies. Even if they had heard of them, they clearly had no intention of straining their brains in the casino. However, Jeff Ma, Mike Aponte, and a few other team members had certain roots that significantly contributed to their success. They often played against representatives of wealthy Asian families who had come to Vegas at the behest of their parents. There were quite a few such players, and team members with Asian roots successfully fit into the existing stereotype. Meanwhile, casinos traditionally believed that the typical card counter was a middle-aged white man. Blackjack and his crew, hardly reaching 20 years of age, were either current or recent students. But in Vegas, they became true rock stars. They attended the most spectacular concerts and shows that the entertainment capital could offer. Occupying the best seats next to celebrities, the guys also attracted the attention of women looking for wealthy clients in the casino. In their everyday lives, these young men would hardly have been able to form relationships with such ladies, as the MIT team members were typically regarded as nerds. After a weekend at the casino, they returned to their previous pace of life. One day, after another trip, one of the team members left a paper bag filled with cash in the classroom, containing around $100,000. The next morning, a janitor finds it, and such a large amount of cash naturally draws the attention of the police and the FBI. At first glance, it may seem that every game in the casino for the Blackjack team is a win. However, this is far from the truth. One weekend, Jeff Ma loses nearly $100,000, and although the funds technically were not his, this loss is still significant. Jeff is in shock. He diligently followed the strategy, counted correctly, and placed his bets. But unfortunately, he was unlucky. Losses are part of the game. This is one of the key reasons why not everyone can effectively use card counting in blackjack. The system only provides a certain advantage, and if your initial bankroll is small and luck is not on your side, you can quickly lose all your money. You may count and bet correctly while following the strategy, but simply be unlucky. The method ensures a long-term win against the casino, which is why a substantial starting capital is necessary. Each of the participants had evenings when they lost tens of thousands of dollars. Nevertheless, this is where the advantage of the strategy lies over the long term. It yielded results, and soon their fortunes began to improve again. In 1995, Jeff graduated from university and received an attractive offer from a young startup. However, on weekends, he continued to visit the casino. During another successful trip to Vegas, he played the role of a carefree gambler, enjoying the process and betting several $1,000s at a time. Everything was going well, and Jeff was winning confidently. After a few hours, someone touches Jeff's shoulder. It's the casino manager who offers him a brief chat. Jeff declines, and the manager informs him that he is banned from continuing to play by order of management. Bill Kaplan always emphasized to his students that if a casino employee asks them to leave the establishment, it's best not to make a scene. It's better to just walk away. Observers are also required to warn about such situations. When a player attracts the manager's attention, they signal by running their hand through their hair, indicating the need to quickly gather their chips and leave the establishment. Although such incidents are not fatal, and being banned from one casino does not eliminate the opportunity to play in others, Jeff and his team continue their activities. However, over the course of several years, bans begin to be imposed more frequently, even in casinos where they have never played. They are still unaware that certain individuals are watching them discreetly. Over time, the tension will begin to rise. In addition to the difficulties with several casinos, disagreements arise within the team. Mike Ponte and some other members expressed dissatisfaction with the share that Bill Kaplan and the other investors take. The group members realize that they are not alone, as dozens of people work for Bill, providing him with significant profits. As a result, Ponte, Jeff, Ma, and other team members decide to separate from BCU and establish their own organization. For Bill Kaplan, this was not a surprise. Many players had already done the same, choosing to go their own way or completely leaving the business. At MIT, talented students were trained who could easily secure high-paying jobs immediately after graduation, with salaries no lower than what Bill Kaplan offered. After parting ways with Kaplan, the Aponte and MR group begins to operate independently. At that time, Jeff is successfully working at a tech startup, but he finds time for the casino every weekend. Over time, money loses its primary importance. The casino allows him to become a different person, at least for the duration of the weekends. However, the main problem is that casinos are constantly keeping up with technological advancements. In the 1990s, player behavior changes drastically. Casinos enlist the help of private companies that increasingly effectively identify cheaters and card counters. After another ban at one of the establishments, Jeff Ma learns about a catalyst with photographs and descriptions of people from a peculiar blacklist. It includes his name, Mike Aponte, Bill Kaplan, and many others. Soon, most establishments will be closed to them. To address this issue, the team employs various approaches. They try wigs, makeup, and even hire a Hollywood makeup artist to master the secrets of disguise. For Jeff Ma, the last straw is the robbery of the apartment of two members of their team. The thieves stole a safe containing tens of thousands of dollars in cash, one in Blackjack. Jeff is convinced that this is the work of people from the casino, while some team members believe it is just a coincidence. In any case, in 1998, a few years after starting his career in Blackjack, Jeff Ma decides to leave the gambling business and focus on his professional career. Mike Aponte will continue his career in the BDC after Jeff's departure. In the mid-2000s, he will become the world champion in Blackjack, start teaching the game to those interested, and consult casinos in their fight against card counters and cheaters. Bill Kaplan gradually comes to the conclusion that the game is not worth the effort. Managing a team of dozens of people and the chronic stress do not justify the income from Blackjack. As a result, he shifts his focus to the real estate business. Most members still do not publicize their involvement in the BDC team. After the official MIT team disbanded, new teams emerged using similar strategies, but they were unable to achieve the same level of success as the original organization. Is it possible to beat the casino today using a card counting system? It is likely that it can be done, but it is unlikely to be sustainable over a long period of time. How much money did the team ultimately earn in the casino over the years? By the most conservative estimates, this amount is at least $50 million. The story of the students from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is a classic tale of David and Goliath, in which the underdog defeats a stronger opponent by relying on their ingenuity. Such are the conditions of the famous law, but a group of mathematics students from MIT disproved it.